Hi, my name is Ben Iuliano. I'm a Planetary health scholar and second-year PhD student in the Department of Integrative Biology, as well as a master's student in the agroecology program here at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I'm going to talk to you about my research on ladybug landscapes, supporting insect conservation and natural pest control. So in recent years, you may have seen an accumulating number of news stories about the insect apocalypse or insect Armageddon, or how plummeting insect numbers threaten the collapse of nature. And while these stories can often be pretty hyperbolic, they point to a real problem that scientists have observed in some parts of the world, and that is declining abundance and diversity of important insect species. This is a problem because insects are incredibly valuable for human livelihood. This is a study from a few years ago that estimated insects provide $57 billion annually in ecosystem services in the United States alone. And these services are comprised of a variety of things that insects do, including decomposition of waste and nutrient cycling, pollination of our crops, as well as natural pest control by predatory insects, which we often refer to as natural enemies of pests. And it's this pest control service and these natural enemy species that my research focuses on. In particular, I think about how agricultural landscape simplification may contribute to the declines of species. And I consider the temporal dynamics of resources like food and shelter for these insects in our landscapes. So you could imagine a simplified agricultural landscape that's dominated by one or a few crop types that are growing late in the season. There may be some remnants of natural habitat that can be important overwintering sites for these species, but this type of landscape leaves important gaps in food and shelter at certain times of the year. In contrast, a more diverse and balanced landscape may have a mix of different crop and non-crop habitats that these species can utilize and take advantage of throughout the entire growing season, promoting larger and healthier populations. The predatory insects that I focus on are lady beetles, colloquially known as ladybugs. And I focus on them because they're charismatic. We all know what they are. They're bright red, and accordingly, they're really easy to count and identify. They're also really biologically well studied, so we know a lot about how their biology and ecology works. In addition, though, ladybugs are voracious consumers of aphids, which are important agricultural pests for many crops in many places. And past research has shown that ladybugs can provide economically relevant levels of pest control to crops in Wisconsin, like soybean. I study lady beetles by traveling all over the southern part of the state across landscapes that vary in their composition of different types of crops and natural habitat. And while I'm there, I work with a team of fantastic undergrads to measure these insect populations through things like these yellow sticky card traps that we can collect periodically to monitor how populations are changing over time. We use sweep nets to go through crop fields as well as prairies and forests, and then count the number of lady beetles, other natural enemies, as well as potential prey for them in these different habitats. And then we take these samples back to the lab, we count them. We're also planning to do some genetics work to identify what these beetles are eating in different habitats at different times of the year. The research questions that I focus on specifically to first how lady beetles and their food resources vary in different habitats over time. I ask whether temporally continuous resource landscapes benefit lady beetle populations and the pest control services that they provide. And I also wonder about the human side of things and ask how farmers and other land managers are thinking about their landscapes around their property outside of their field boundaries as it relates to the insects and ecosystem services that they provide on farms. And all of this is in service of a planetary health goal of sustainable agricultural landscapes, promoting the health of people as well as the rest of nature on which we depend. Thank you for listening.